Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's happening, everybody? Welcome into Locked On SEC. Great to have you guys along. On today's show, we will give you our official SEC predictions on how the season goes, running through every team with record predictions, order of finish. You may be surprised by a few of them. Also, we will go around the conference as we are officially in week one of the SEC football season. A bunch of notes to get to ahead of this week's games. I'm Chris Gordy. Be sure to follow Locked On SEC for free wherever you get your podcasts. You get the latest episode of this show as soon as it comes out each and every day. And keep in mind, we are here for you 5 days a week, free on all podcast platforms, talking about the SEC. But if you're a college football fan, we've got you covered here at the Locked On Podcast Network. Plenty of other great college football teams, specifically Locked On Bama, Locked On LSU, Locked On Razorbacks. We got you covered with all things SEC, even for your specific teams. So check those out. All right, let's jump right into it.
You are Locked On SEC, your daily podcast on the Southeastern Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
It is officially game week. Week one is here. Let's jump into it. Let's go around the conference.
Boots out to the right. Takes the handoff. What a catch!
Around the conference.
And we start with Hurricane Ida taking a direct hit yesterday at Louisiana and all along the Gulf Coast. Impending devastation of the storm caused the LSU football team to relocate over the weekend to Houston, Texas, where they will remain for the rest of this week before they head out to Los Angeles to take on UCLA in their opener this Saturday night. Reports say the LSU bus trip to Houston, which would normally take 4 hours, took over 10 hours due to traffic from people evacuating west on Interstate 10 on Saturday night. So our thoughts go out to everyone out there being affected by the storm. Meanwhile, LSU's first opponent, UCLA, they were one of the few teams that played this past Saturday in week 0, beating up on Hawaii 44-10. UCLA, however, did not bring a crowd. If you saw the game on TV, there were barely any fans in attendance for the game. UCLA has been struggling with fan attendance. Chip Kelly not having the greatest record there so far. And LSU, they expect to fill at least half the stadium with Tiger fans, if not more. So it should feel almost like a home game for LSU this Saturday night in the Rose Bowl. Will be interesting to see how that one looks on television. Other news over at Alabama, linebacker Quindarius Robinson. He was arrested for DUI early Sunday morning following a car accident. According to AL.com, Robinson was part of a collision involving 3 cars that occurred just after 11 p.m. in Tuscaloosa. 2 cars were reportedly heavily damaged. Luckily, nobody was injured, but Robinson was listed as an inmate at Tuscaloosa County Jail with a $1,000 bond after being taken to jail pending a sobriety test. He's entering his sophomore season at Alabama, was rated the number 65 overall recruit in the class of 2020. He did not record any playing time last season for Alabama. Over at Arkansas, they have several experienced players returning to the field this fall. On Saturday, the Razorbacks announced their 5-team captains for 2021. 3 defensive players and 2 offensive players received an honor. Grant Morgan, the linebacker, DBs Jalen Catalon, and Joe Fouché, quarterback KJ Jefferson, and offensive lineman Myron Cunningham will all be captains this year for Arkansas. Other than Jefferson, who backed up Felipe Franks last year, all the rest of the guys have plenty of experience for the Hogs and will all be good captains for them. Over at Texas A&M, Jimbo Fisher's staff awarded 6 new Texas A&M scholarships, according to reports. In addition, all those guys walk-ons, they were all put on scholarship by Jimbo Fisher, so good for them. But in addition to that, on Saturday morning, the 2021 12th man was officially announced. The highly coveted honor went to junior long snapper Connor Choate, who is entering his junior year with the Aggies. He will don the number 12. The 12th man honor stems all the way back to the 1922 season. It's always a cool deal when you put on that number 20 or number 12 for the Aggies. Aggies will open their season this Saturday against Kent State, airing on ESPNU. When the Florida Gators take the field this Saturday against FAU, they will do so against a former Miami Hurricanes quarterback in N'Kosi Perry, who was announced as FAU's starter on Sunday. Florida native was a former four-star recruit before signing with the Hurricanes in 2017. Redshirted as a freshman, played in 24 games with Miami the past couple seasons, started 9 of them. After not practicing with the Hurricanes this past spring, he announced his departure from the program, opted to transfer to FAU. He could give Florida a little bit of trouble, so that'll be one worth keeping an eye on when FAU takes on Florida. On Sunday, ESPN updated their football power index. Alabama still checks in at the number 1 spot. Georgia comes in at number 5. Texas A&M number 6. Florida at number 10. So 4 SEC schools in the top 10 in FPI. LSU comes in at number 16. Auburn at number 17. Ole Miss number 20. Mississippi State 22. And then a little bit down, you got Arkansas at 32. Kentucky at 40. Missouri at 48, Tennessee 55, South Carolina 62, and Vanderbilt at 110. Again, the football power index sometimes I think is flawed, but some people like the system, so it is what it is. College football fans were very excited Saturday morning. If you were turning on ESPN, you saw College Game Day and their crew make their long-awaited return. They were in Atlanta, and the Game Day crew made their predictions for this season. None of the show's 4 analysts, David Pollack, Desmond Howard, Lee Corso, or Kirk Herbstreit, picked the preseason number 1 team, Alabama, to repeat as a champion. Howard, Pollack, and Herbstreit all picked Alabama to win the SEC, while Corso has Georgia winning the conference. But as for the college football playoff, David Pollack picked Georgia to beat Alabama for the national title. Desmond Howard picked Oklahoma to beat Alabama in the title game. Lee Corso picked Georgia to win the title against Oklahoma, and Herbstreit had Oklahoma winning over Alabama. And with it being week 1, game week, a little trash talk never hurt anyone. One diehard Miami Hurricanes fan issued a diss track aimed at Alabama ahead of the Miami-Alabama game this Saturday in Atlanta. A Twitter user named The Coach Coop released his rap song on social media. Here's what it sounded like.
But let me lay something out for you today. Let's get it. This is going to be how the game's going to go. Real talk. Bama fans keep up because I know you're kind of slow. Stupid. Team leads the team out. First down. Hand off to Cameron. Touchdown. Now Manny's defense is taking the field. Squad full of headhunters and they're out for blood. Bryce Young looking around, fans thinking he's dumb. Stats way down low, just like the income. Nick Saban got fans' heads all inflated. Fourth quarter rolls around, it's time we deflate it. Pulls up, cause you know how we do. Move out the way, the Canes are coming through. There's a hurricane warning for Atlanta, Georgia, and it's a Category 5, man, I already told you. We might be known as the Cardiac Canes. With 4 Gallus on the squad, they were never afraid. If you think this shoe will just lay down and quit, you got another thing coming. This shoe we're legit, straight certified. A case of monster. Some might even know us as the football mobsters. Been waiting for our time, and it's finally here. Famous bandwagon fans about to disappear. And Manny Diaz, we trust. Saban's retirement, 2021.
All right, so that was Coach Coop. Now, an Alabama fan named Brian Oliu, I believe is how it's pronounced, responded with a poem version, not a rap, but he goes back at Coach Coop defending the Tide. Here's what his sounded like.
This man's rhymes and his team are plantain soft. Miami bass, this man is Miami baritone. Team so low on our register, we could start a saxophone player in the $1 million band. Play your cards right, and our $8 million man might put the backups in after a millionth RB ran for 1,000,000 yards like Millie Bobby Brown did in Stranger Things when she didn't have her bicycle. Do the math. In 11 years, we've won 5 titles. In 11 years, y'all had a coach who wore a tie, though. Hugging cardboard cutouts, your head coach is flimsy, gets all wet and musty and starts smelling like Kissimmee, which is where you'll be staying in late December when you're praying the Cheez-It Bowl will hopefully remember how you played Bama real tough for a possession and a half-ish, while we'll be prepping the playoff using your facilities to practice.
There you go. That was Brian Aliu responding with a poem version. If you like it, you can search him on Twitter and hear the rest of it. When we return, we're going to do our season predictions for the SEC. That is next. Need to remind you guys about our friends over at SweatBlock. Look, there are a few things in life that just are not fun to talk about. One of them is excessive sweating. You know you're going to be out on campus this weekend tailgating and getting ready for your season opener game. And a lot of times you're going to bring in an extra change of shirt or something because it is hot still. You're talking about 90 degrees, some close to 100 degrees on some campuses this weekend. Why not take care of your business with SweatBlock wipes? They're doctor-created, doctor-recommended. They work for up to 7 days per use. They give you the dry shirt guarantee. If SweatBlock doesn't keep you dry, you get your money back. It's featured and tested on the Rachel Ray Show by firefighters. It's a bestseller on Amazon for the past 10 years, over 13,000 reviews. It is stronger and more effective than most clinical antiperspirants. You simply apply it at night before you go to bed. The next morning, you wake up, wash, go about your day without worrying about sweat, guaranteed. I know it sounds like it's too good to be true, but you need to go check them out. If you or someone you love is dealing with this, go check out SweatBlock. You can get it today for 20% off at sweatblock.com when you use the promo code LOCKEDON. That's LOCKEDON. You can also find them on Amazon and at CVS, but get it today, 20% off at sweatblock.com when you use our promo code LOCKEDON. All right, rolling along here, Locked On SEC, and I want to jump right into it. Let's make our season predictions for the year. We'll start with the SEC West, and how this is going to work is we're going to go in order of reverse finish. We're going to start at the bottom of the SEC West, and at the bottom of the SEC West, I've got Mississippi State. A really brutal schedule in year two for Mike Leach. I think they actually lose 2 out of their first 3 non-conference games. Let's just say they squeak by Louisiana Tech in week 1, but I got them losing to NC State and at Memphis. I think LSU gets the revenge game against them in week 4 in Starkville. Then they lose to the Aggies in College Station before getting bludgeoned by Alabama on October 16th. That puts the Bulldogs at 1-5 to start the season. I think they then beat Vanderbilt. I think they lose to Kentucky at home, lose at Arkansas. I'll give you an upset special. They'll beat Auburn at Auburn. They'll beat Tennessee State, and then they'll lose to Ole Miss in the Egg Bowl. So I've got Mississippi State finishing the season 4-8, 2-6 in the SEC. They finished 7th in the SEC West. And I think Mike Leach is out that quickly at Mississippi State. Could be wrong. That's my prediction. Next up, I've got the Arkansas Razorbacks finishing 6th in the SEC West. Sam Pittman in year 2. I think the Hogs will play better, but the schedule does not get any easier. That's the tough part. I've got them beating Rice. I got them losing a hard-fought game in week 2 versus Steve Sarkisian and the Texas Longhorns. I just think too much Bijan Robinson. I think the game gets away from them late. Then they'll beat Georgia Southern. That'll get them to 2-1. And then I think they lose the next several. The neutral field game against Texas A&M, which they always seem to lose. And a road trip to face Georgia and Athens, followed by a road trip to Oxford. I think they lose to Ole Miss, so that puts them at 2-4. I think they lose to Auburn and Fayetteville in a really close one. You drop to 2-5. And they'll beat Arkansas Pine Bluff. And I have them beating Mississippi State, so you're 4-5. They'll lose at LSU, lose at Alabama, and then I've got Arkansas winning the shootout in the finale versus Missouri to finish 5-7. And they finish 6th in the SEC West, 2-6 in the conference. Look, not the best of seasons for Sam Pittman in year 2. He'd like to at least get bowl eligible, get to 6-6, but understand the schedule is just absolutely brutal for them. And I think they'll be okay. Just give a little time and patience to Sam Pittman. Let him build that thing up and let the schedule get a little bit more favorable. Next up, I have Auburn finishing 5th in the West in Brian Harson's first year in the SEC. I've got them beating Akron and Alabama State to start 2-0. I think they lose a tough one at Penn State in week 3. and they come home to beat Georgia State, so they go 3-1 to start. Then they get an SEC play. I think they lose at LSU. It's a place that Auburn just hasn't won 20 years. I don't think they're going to do it this year. Then they lose the next week against Georgia in Jordan-Hare Stadium. That drops them to 3-3. I have Auburn winning at Arkansas. Then they upset. I've got them beating Ole Miss in Auburn to improve to 5-3. They'll lose at Texas A&M. I have them losing to Mississippi State in a letdown game. Then they'll win at South Carolina before getting blown out in the Iron Bowl to finish the year at 6-6. So they go to a bowl game. A little bit of a step back this year, but Brian Harsin will get his team going in year 2. Also, another prediction for me. I think Bo Nix is benched at some point this year in favor of TJ Finley. Bold prediction there. Auburn goes 3-5 in the conference, finishes 5th. Finishing 4th in the SEC West, I have Lane Kiffin and the Ole Miss Rebels. I think the Rebels beat Louisville in their opener this coming Monday. I think they'll beat Austin Peay, and I think they beat Tulane. So I think they start 3-0. I was really tempted to say Kiffin and Ole Miss have a chance to beat Alabama, but the game is at Bryant-Denny Stadium. If it was in Oxford, I might lean differently, but they lose to Bama, so they're 3-1. Then I have them beating Arkansas, winning at Tennessee. Matt Corral's going to put on a show. I think they lose a close one at home versus LSU. I thought long and hard about that one. I thought maybe I could go with Ole Miss beating LSU, but I think LSU is going to be much improved this year. So they lose that one. My upset pick, I have Ole Miss losing at Auburn to fall to 5-3. They win a tough one at home versus Hugh Freeze and Liberty. They lose a hard-fought game versus Texas A&M. They beat Vanderbilt, then they win the Egg Bowl at Mississippi State. Rebels finish 8-4 overall, 4-4 in the SEC. Go to a pretty good bowl game. Not a bad year 2 for Lane Kiffin. I just think the defense is not going to be light years better than it was last year, like some people are thinking. Next up, I have LSU finishing 3rd in the SEC West. I think the Tigers will beat UCLA this Saturday, but I think it's close for a while. UCLA got their run game going this past weekend against Hawaii. Looked pretty good, but I think LSU will come home to beat McNeese in Central Michigan before going on the road to start SEC play. I think they beat Mississippi State in their revenge game from last year. I think LSU beats Auburn at home. So LSU starts the year 5-0. I think they lose one of the next 2, either at Kentucky or home for Florida. I will give Kentucky the win over LSU in Lexington, and I think LSU comes back home the next week and beats Florida in Tiger Stadium. I have LSU winning a close one at Ole Miss the next week, so they're 7-1. They lose at Alabama the next week, and they come home to beat Arkansas, Louisiana Monroe, and then upset time. I've got LSU beating Texas A&M in their final game of the season, a place the Aggies have not won since they joined the SEC. LSU finishes with a strong 10-2 record, 6-2 in the SEC, and with a good chance to go to a New Year's Six Bowl. A little optimistic on LSU, but look, I think the defense is going to be much, much better with Durante Jones. Bo Pelini was just god-awful last year. So here we are. We've got 2 SEC schools left in the West, and Alabama fans, don't hate me, but I've got the Crimson Tide finishing 2nd in the SEC West. Let me explain. I've got them beating Miami. I've got them beating Mercer. I've got them winning at the Swamp over Florida in week 3. I think that one is close for a half. I got them beating Southern Miss before coming home and playing another close one for a half with Ole Miss before pulling away. They will come home and play another, Bama's 5-0 at that point. They will head into College Station on October 9th, and that's where I have the Aggies and Jimbo Fisher pulling off the upset. I think they get fortunate forcing a couple of turnovers, the Aggies do. Bama makes a couple of uncharacteristic mistakes, and A&M wins by a field goal, 31-28. After that, Bama goes on to win at Mississippi State. They win at home against Tennessee. They win at home against LSU. They beat New Mexico State and Arkansas before winning the Iron Bowl. And Bama finishes 11-1 with the lone loss to Texas A&M. Now, unfortunately, that leaves Bama finishing second in the West. I do think they will still get into the playoff. I'll talk about more on that in a little bit. But finishing first in the SEC West, I've got Texas A&M. They start the year beating Kent State, winning at Colorado, beating New Mexico. They beat Arkansas and Arlington. They beat Mississippi State. As I just broke down, I think they pull off the massive upset, beating Alabama at Kyle Field on October 9th. I just think it's going to be packed, and a lot of things will go the Aggies' way. Then I have them winning at Missouri, beating South Carolina, beating Auburn, winning at Ole Miss. They'll beat Prairie View. And then I have the Aggies taking their first loss of the season in their last game of the season, losing at LSU on November 27th. It's a place the Aggies have not won since they joined the conference. But I have the Aggies going to Atlanta. We'll touch on more of that in just a little bit. So to recap, A&M and Bama both finish 11-1, 7-1 in the SEC. Aggies finished first in the West. Bama finished second because of the head-to-head. LSU finishes third. Ole Miss fourth. Auburn fifth. Arkansas sixth. And Mississippi State seventh. When we return, we will touch on the SEC East. That's coming up next. Quick minute here for our friends over at Built Bar. Built Bar is the best tasting protein bar ever. What's your favorite Built Bar flavor? They've got 9 delicious flavors. When you talk to somebody who's a fan of the Built Bar, they're definitely passionate about their favorites. If you don't know Built Bar flavors, you got coconut, you got coconut almond, you got cherry, raspberry, mint brownie, my favorite, double chocolate, salted caramel. There's something for everyone. If you haven't tried them all, you can get a mixed box where you'll get 2 of each of their 9 flavors. Not only are they the best tasting, but they are healthy as well. Many of the flavors packed with 17 grams of protein, only 130 calories, 4 grams sugar, 4 grams net carbs. Order today. You can get that raspberry or mint brownie or whatever you like. Just go to BuiltBar.com and use our promo code LOCKED15, and you'll get 15% off your first order. Use the promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at BuiltBar.com. Go check them out today. It is that time of year again, folks. All eyes are turning to football as the teams are back on the gridiron. We got week 1 starting up this weekend. And as always, BetOnline is your #1 spot for all the pro and college football action this season. Head over to their website right now. You can do so on your mobile device. Sign up today, and you can receive a 100% welcome bonus. Use our promo code LOCKEDON. That's LOCKEDON. And be sure to take advantage of all their great offers. They got an opening day super promo. When you make a bet on the Thursday, September 9th NFL opener between the Buccaneers and the Cowboys, if you lose, your wager will be refunded up to $25 for new customers only when you sign up and use their promo code NFL100. So you can do that one with NFL100 or do ours with the promo code LOCKEDON. Either way, it's just for new customers, but go check them out. From football, basketball, boxing, right to your favorite Vegas casino games. Don't wait. Take advantage of all the great offers available for the 2021 season. BetOnline, the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports. BetOnline, they are your online sportsbook experts. All right, roll along here with our official SEC predictions for the start of the season. We just did the SEC West, so let's jump into it and do our SEC East predictions in reverse order of finish. So finishing at the bottom of the SEC East, I've got first-year head coach Clark Lee and Vanderbilt. I've got Vandy beating Eastern Tennessee to start the year. Then I have them winning at Colorado State. So Vandy starts 2-0. And that Colorado State game, not going to be easy, but I've got them winning that one. I think they'll lose week 3 at Stanford, and they'll lose to Georgia to open SEC play. I have them beating UConn on October 2nd. UConn's not good at all. Then they'll lose at Florida, lose at South Carolina, lose against Mississippi State, lose to Missouri, and they get their bye week. Then they lose to Kentucky, lose at Ole Miss, lose a hard-fought game at Tennessee. But I got the Commodores going 0-8 in the SEC. They'll finish 3-9 overall. I think they proved to be competitive in some games, but just a brutal schedule to get through. and they're dedicated to building for the future in year 2 under Clark Lee. Finishing 6th in the SEC East, I have Shane Beamer and the South Carolina Gamecocks. Still questions about Luke Doty's health. I think if he was ready to go and he's been practicing the last couple of weeks, I would be a little bit more optimistic about the Gamecocks. But I've got them winning their first 2 against Eastern Illinois and East Carolina. They'll lose their first SEC game at Georgia. They'll lose to Kentucky. They'll beat Troy, so that'll get them to 3-2. October 9th, I think, is a real toss-up game right now, but I have them losing in Knoxville to Tennessee. I think it's a close one. They'll beat Vandy to improve to 4-3, and they'll lose at Texas A&M, lose at home to Florida, lose at Missouri, lose to Auburn, and lose to Clemson. They'll finish the season on a 5-game losing streak, so they'll finish 4-8 overall, 1-8 in the SEC. But I think Shane Beamer going to recruit very well. I think the arrow will be pointing upward for the Gamecocks in 2022. Finishing 5th in the SEC East, I have yet another first-year head coach in Josh Heupel and Tennessee. I've got Tennessee beating Bowling Green in week 1. I think they beat Pitt in a dogfight game in week 2. That one's going to be a super early game. I think they'll beat Tennessee Tech. So I've got Tennessee starting 3-0. And they'll lose to Florida in the Swamp in week 4. They'll lose at Missouri. They'll beat South Carolina, lose to Ole Miss, lose at Alabama, lose at Kentucky, lose against Georgia. They'll beat South Alabama. They'll beat Vandy. So 6-6, I have year 1 for Josh Heupel. They will be bowl eligible, but they probably will not go to one pending the ongoing investigation. But much better quarterback play for the Vols this season. They will be competitive in a couple of close losses. 4th in the SEC East, I've got the Missouri Tigers. Eli Drinkwitz and his crew taking a little bit of a step forward in year 2. They'll beat Central Michigan in week 1. They'll lose a close one in week 2 at Kentucky. They'll have a chance to win that one, but I think the Cats win it right now. They'll beat Southeast Missouri. Then I think they struggle at Boston College in week 4, but find a way to get out the win. Then I think they beat Tennessee on October 2nd. They beat North Texas. So that gets Missouri at 5-1 to start. Then they'll lose at home to A&M. They'll win at Vandy. They'll lose at Georgia, beat South Carolina, and then they'll lose their last 2 home against Florida and at Arkansas to finish 7-5 for Missouri. But a couple of toss-up games there against Arkansas and Kentucky. It could easily be a much better year for Missouri in year 2 for Eli Drinkwitz. 3rd in the SEC East, I've got the Kentucky Wildcats. Kentucky starts the season red hot with new quarterback Will Levis and new offensive coordinator Liam Cohen. They'll beat Louisiana Monroe. They beat Missouri in week 2. They beat Chattanooga. Then they win at South Carolina. So Kentucky starts 4-0. I think they lose a close one at home against Florida. Probably another one where they have a couple of missed field goals. So they're 4-1. The LSU one, I think, is a toss-up. I could see them losing that one. I could see them winning it. They lose to Georgia and Athens. Then I have them winning at Mississippi State, beating Tennessee at home, winning at Vandy, beat New Mexico State, and at Louisville. Kentucky finishes 9-3 overall. They dropped the head-to-head to Florida. There's a chance, though, if they win that one, they could finish 2nd in the SEC East. That means, of course, 2nd overall, I've got in the SEC East the Florida Gators. Dan Mullen starts the season. They beat Florida Atlantic. They beat USF. And they lose at home to Bama. Then they come back to beat Tennessee, win a close one at Kentucky. They beat Vanderbilt. They're 5-1 going into Baton Rouge. They lose a close one at LSU. Then it's the rivalry game against Georgia. I think they lose that one. They beat South Carolina. They beat Samford. They beat Missouri. And they beat Florida State. And Florida finishes 9-3 overall. Not a bad year with all the Florida Gators lost last season. And first overall, I have the Georgia Bulldogs in the SEC East. How about this one for a little bit of a twist? I think Kirby Smart and the Bulldogs lose the season opener this Saturday to Clemson. But I think they run the table after that. They beat UAB. They beat South Carolina. They win at Vandy, beat Arkansas, win at Auburn, beat Kentucky, beat Florida, beat Missouri, win at Tennessee, beat Charleston Southern, and then they win at Georgia Tech to finish off the year. I think Georgia finishes 11-1 but a perfect 8-0 in the SEC. So where do we go from there? Well, in Atlanta, I've got Texas A&M versus Georgia. I've got Kirby Smart and the Bulldogs winning the SEC championship. I think after that, Georgia obviously would make the college football playoff. Here's how I see the rest of it shaking out. I've got Oklahoma winning the Big 12. They get in the playoff. I've got Clemson winning the ACC. They get into the playoff. I have Ohio State struggling in year one with their new quarterback, C.J. Stroud. I've got Ohio State with a couple of losses. They missed the playoff. Alabama gets in as the fourth team into the college football playoff. So 2 SEC teams in the playoff in Alabama and Georgia. And I've got Georgia winning the national championship. Kirby Smart finally gets it done. JT Daniels proves to be the missing link, the piece that can get Georgia over the hump. Remember, had inconsistent times at quarterback play. I think Georgia gets it done with the dominant defense. I think the defense is even better this year. The ground game got them leading the SEC in rushing yards this year. And Georgia wins the national championship. Kirby Smart finally gets over the hump. And there you have it. Those are our official predictions for the start of the SEC season. Throughout this week, we'll actually get into discussing some of the games happening this weekend. We'll preview all of them and get you set for week one of the SEC. And a quick reminder, betting on the SEC doesn't have to be a guessing game. If you listen to the new Locked On Bets podcast, your boy Q and Lee Sterling. Lee gives you his lock of the day. Follow Locked On Bets, brought to you by BetOnline AG, wherever you get your podcasts. That's going to do it for me, Chris Gordy. Talk to you guys tomorrow. Have a great day, everybody. And don't hate my predictions. It's just predictions.